Oh, what another great night for math, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're getting into this flipped idea as much as I am, and that you look forward to these videos each night, because it does make learning easier, especially if you have the right attitude and you put forth the appropriate effort. Everything is easier when you have attitude and effort, ladies and gentlemen. So let's move right along with lesson 2.2. Page 52 and 53, I know you've read them. You read them before you listen to me, I hope. That's what you are asked to do, so hopefully you are doing it. We are going to add rational numbers today using, of course, what we learned in our first unit, because we're going to use them from now on, and that is our integer rules. Our essential question: how can you use what you know about adding integers to add rational numbers? So, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue along, it is inherently obvious that many times the book does not give enough information in the notes that you need to take down. Sometimes you have to gather from the examples exactly what to do in doing the skills that they're trying to show you. So a lot of times I have to add to it, and this is one of those times. They just don't give enough information. Just saying to use the integer rules isn't helpful enough. Of course, they're probably assuming you already know. But I'm going to add something to it to make this easier. I got 4 points that I need to talk about. The first one, you might want to watch them all and then write them down, unless you can write as quickly as I can talk. The first thing you want to do is you want to make all these fractions improper if possible. You know, sometimes they don't need to be. Anytime you see a negative sign, ladies and gentlemen, we're adding. We're adding. And when you're adding and you see a negative sign, it's going to be a lot easier if you make these fractions improper if you can. Number 2, or part B, make common denominator. Each fraction needs to have a common denominator, and then we're going to keep it. Once you make it, you keep it. Part 3, or C, we're going to add the numerators following the integer rules. Only the numerators. That's the top number. Okay? And then part 4, or D, we always simplify our fractions when we're done. So let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, when adding rational numbers, use the same rules for the signs as you used for what? That's right, we're always reminding ourselves, integers. And it is best to use common denominators. Notice I put the word best. I put the word best. The reason I put the word best is, hey, I hate to tell you this, you don't absolutely have to have common denominators to add these fractions. I'm going to show you in class, because I don't want to spend valuable video time showing you how to add these fractions without common denominators, but someone please remind me to show you in class how to add them without having common denominators. But tonight, what we're doing, we're going to use them, common denominators, and we're going to use those 4 bullet points. So number 1 says, hey, if I see a negative sign, make improper. Well, I see a negative sign because I'm finding what negative 7/8 plus 1/4 is. I see a negative sign. However, there is no fraction there I can make improper. Part 2, make a common denominator and keep it. To do that, I draw one larger fraction bar. And I look at it and I say, hey, I've got 8ths and 4ths. What is the common denominator? That's right, the common denominator is 8. So I write it once. That way I can't accidentally add or subtract denominators when I'm not supposed to, because I'm keeping it. I find it and I keep it. Then I say to myself, well, negative 7/8, I already have that, so the negative 7 stays. And then, what do I do to get from 4ths to 8ths? That's right, I multiply by 2. So 2 times 1, we're adding 2. Next it says to add the numerators. Negative 7 plus 2, using integer rules, I know negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. And of course, I already did it. I keep it. I don't do anything else with that denominator. I always keep it. So negative 5/8. Can I simplify? Nope. I'm done. Let's move on. Negative 6 1/3 plus 20 thirds. So here I see an instance where part 1, I'm going to do it. I have negative 6 1/3. I'm going to make improper. So it's 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1. I have negative 19 thirds plus 20 thirds. I do already have a common denominator, so I'm going to keep it. Thirds. And now I have negative 19 plus 20. So I add those numerators. Negative 19 plus 20 is positive 1/3. I cannot simplify. I am done. Moving right along. I'm not giving a ton of examples, ladies and gentlemen, because you should already know how to add and subtract fractions and rational numbers So we're going to have some more we can work together in class as we're doing our assignment. Part 3, -2 plus a -7/2. Well, -2, to write that as improper, -2/1 plus the -7/2. I need a common denominator. It is going to be halves. And to get -2/1 to halves, I got to multiply by 2. So I have a -4/2 plus a -7/2. When I add that together, -11/2. When I simplify, -5 1/2. Pretty dang darn quick and simple. Pretty straightforward. Moving right along, you have to add rational numbers written as decimals, and of course you have to follow integer rules, so we're going to do a couple real fast. Just remember, the only thing you have to know in adding decimals as rational numbers, excuse me there for a second, is that you have to line up the decimal. And I told you that. Why? That is so that you're adding the appropriate place values. So our first example, find 12.5 and 15.3. So I write 12.5, I line up the decimal, and I say 15.3, and then I just go adding right away. I have 2, so 27.8. Don't forget to bring that decimal down into the answer. 27.8. Moving right along, -8.15 plus the -4.3. So I recognize that I'm adding with the same sign again. So 8.15 and 4.3. I bring down the 5, that's a 4, and this gives me 12. Bring down the decimal, and of course I keep the common sign, which is negative. Moving right along to our last example of this video. Now 0.65 plus a -2.75. So I recognize that 2.75 is greater than 0.65. So I'm going to take 2.75. I'm going to subtract 0.65. That gives me 0, that gives me 1. 2 minus that's 2. Bring down the decimal. Since 2.75 is greater and 2.75 is negative, my final answer is -2.1. I don't need that 0. I don't need any of those ending zeros. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends this first video. Please remember, if you have any questions about it, you come and ask in class. You have 2 you need to do, finding 4/5 plus -3/10 and finding a -3.92 plus a -6.089. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're done, take a quick break, get a snack, come back and see me soon so we can finish tonight.